I remember at the end of the day, publishing is seen as a rich white man's business. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he wants to make money. You know, publishing is ruled by middle class white men, backed by middle class white women.
Yeah.
You go to the London Book Fair, it's hard to spot anyone that looks like you.
Hello and welcome to another interesting and explosive episode of the Curious Tycoon Podcast. Today we are joined by a powerhouse of literary and social impact. My guest today is an author, journalist, writing coach, radio presenter, the founder of the WILDE Foundation, and her name is Rashida Malcolm. Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive in. Hello, Rashida, and we are welcome. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hi. I've got a bit of a cough today, so let's hope you don't have to experience it. But other than that, I'm fine. I'm grateful for life, for health. I'm just grateful to be here doing what I'm doing.
We'll start with some icebreakers. You know, Rashida, you've had an interesting trajectory. So tell us, when did you first realize that writing was not just a skill, but your superpower?
Okay, how writing hooked me was, I would say I was about 8 years old, and my father is that great inspiration for me. He was not into watching TV. None of us children could watch television when Daddy was listening to the radio, and what he listened to was The Archers, which was radio drama. I'm the youngest in the family, and you know, in Jamaica, Jamaican families call the youngest child the wash belly. So, and it's a term of endearment, it really is. And so while Daddy was listening to the radio, I'm the one sitting, because you know, fathers have their own chairs. So he had his own armchair. That armchair he sat in when he wasn't listening to the radio. I could sit on his lap and play with his ears and let him tell me stories. But once he's watching The Archers, I sit beside his feet. Archers was on 7 o'clock each evening. And after a little while, listening to this, because my elder siblings, they didn't stay in the room to listen to Daddy's radio. They went off. My elder sisters went upstairs to play music. My brother went outside to play football. I sat by Daddy's feet. And I remember thinking once, after a little while of saying, stories are boring, I can write better stories than that, you know. And I started in exercise books, because once you say that to Daddy, he's going to give you a challenge. So he gave me books and I started writing my own stories. And of course, those days they were princess being rescued by a prince and happy ever after and the wicked witch. Very childish stories. I was probably influenced by watching Snow White, reading Snow White and all those fairy tales that they had then. So I didn't really know I was a writer or I was interested in writing, really, not in that sense. But when I started high school, my favorite subject was English. My favorite. So I was terrible at maths, still am, but I had a best friend. She was very good at maths, but lousy at English. So we made a deal. I used to do her English homework and she did my maths. We didn't get really caught out until the final year at school. We were caught. But cutting a long story short, when I used to submit my English homework, my teacher, Mr. Feeney, oh, what a grand man. And even in those days, he was an old man. He could have been like, I don't call it old, because 70 now, I don't even call 70 old. I mean, some 70-year-olds that look like 40 and 50, so I dare not call 70 old. But when you're little, you know, 70 seems old. And he always gave me A pluses, and would tell me off if I played around too much with the girls who was at the back of the class. And, you know, this was like a white middle-class English gentleman who took a shine and told me I was a good writer. And in fact, when I actually left school, in my very last school report, which I've kept to this day, he wrote, "A brilliant author who hides her light under a bushel." And he said that because it took me ages to hand in my homework or hand in any work we did, because
you took your time.
I wanted to be, not just that, I wanted to be part of the bad girl crew. And the bad girl crew, they never hand in any homework or any work. I needed to fit in as well, I had that. And but he always knew I'd done it, so he would pester me until I gave it in. But I would try and give it in at the end when, the bad girls give it in, or not giving it at all, because I wanted to be a bad girl. I wanted to flex like how, and it was mainly, I grew up in Hertfordshire, so it was mainly white girls. I was copying. And of course, when my school report and Mummy and Daddy, they didn't always have time to come down, but Mr. Feeney would write in the report my behavior. And of course, Daddy would always ask me, "Are you a leader or a follower? You're following, And I would always say, "I'm a leader." He says, "Well, prove it, because right now you're following." Yes. So I left school, didn't know what to do. Mummy said, "I think you should go into nursing." And I was thinking, oh, okay. I even applied for nursing because, I did eventually get my grades. And they offered me a job at Lister Hospital in Letchworth, because I lived in Hitchin. And before that summer before I started, I went to London with a friend, to stay with a friend who was now living down there. But also my second sister lived in London.
Yeah.
And when I went to London, that's where I met my future love, my only love. And he was into music, into songwriting. And of course, again, I thought I can write better songs than that, And I started playing around songs, but then the pen just found stories. I started writing stories. I was reading magazines. I started writing features. And I thought, I want to go to college and write. So I didn't end up taking the nursing. I went to college and I did access to media studies. And that gave me an intro to journalism, to radio, print and television. And after I did that, I went on to do a degree and thoroughly enjoyed it. Set up my own magazine called Candy's Magazine for women of colour. And between my father and my partner, they funded me for a while, and then I was able to get some funding. And that lasted for about 5 years, the magazine, and then it ran dry because of advertising. Because in the 90s, they didn't want to advertise in anything other than the Voice newspaper. Those big ad companies would tell you, I advertised with the Voice as if that was the only audience that our community had, when in fact, I didn't really read the Voice. I was always reading The Guardian.
Yeah.
And so that's where it started. And when I left uni after my degree, I went straight to do a master's in creative and transactional writing. Writing was my thing now. It was my love. It was everything. And I was journaling. I was waking up in the morning, journaling. And all kinds of memories came back to me. And I remembered, I've got this 5-year diary that was given to me by my best friend at school when I was 15. So I actually found that diary, and it lasted 5 years. So I was writing it way up until 20. And just looking back at all the stuff I was doing, I'd done, it's amazing. It's amazing when you read back. You forget some of the stuff you've done. Some of the stuff makes you laugh. A lot of it teaches you.
Yeah.
And surprises you, because, you didn't even know you could spill those things onto the page. So when I finished my master's, while I was doing the degree, actually, I had work placement at the BBC. I did radio. I was on radio. Every Woman Inspired, which was, an international radio show for African in the diaspora and the Caribbean. I did some work placement at Women's Hour. Then I started working at the Writers' Room. That gave me a lot of experience and taught me a lot about the BBC. I'll say no more. While I was there, they sent me to do a feature on women's aid. And that was the first time I went to a refuge in Ealing where they were women who had to flee their homes because they'd been abused, beaten by, their partners, their husbands, their fathers, their brothers. I didn't know a place like that existed until I did my feature on it. And while I was there, they said to me, the managing committee said, "You're really good with these women. They open up to you, they talk to you. Would you like to volunteer here?" So I said, "Yeah." So I started volunteering at the Women's Refuge. And then I was still working at the Beeb that time. And then my mentor at the Beeb was a gentleman, and there was also a lady. He was an African gentleman and a white lady. And she was great, my mentor. But I didn't like the department I was working in. I found them difficult. And I asked her if I could take a sabbatical because I wanted to go and try working at a women's refuge. While I was volunteering there, they offered me a job. And I thought, yeah, I want to try this. Let me try it for 2 years, and then I'll go back working at the refuge, working at BBC. But of course, I didn't go back. I stayed at that Ealing Women's Refuge for like 18 years. I didn't go back at all. And that's where my writing took on wings, because I watch women and their broken lives. I was able to, take characters and put on a page and change them. I was able to use, experiences from women. But I decided I wanted to write love stories. I mean, they call them romance, but I don't see myself as writing that traditional romance, because I don't do boy meets girl, boy and girl have an argument, then end up together and happy ever after. I do stories of complexities of women's lives.
I'm sure we're going to get into the kind of stories you tell, how you use your creative energy to do things and impact the world. We're going to get into all that. Honestly, listening to you now, it feels like I was listening to an audio book, because I can tell that you are a very good storyteller as well, which is a skill that not all of us have. But yeah, we're going to move on.
Okay.
Well, because I can listen to you all day here. I'm going to move on to the second icebreaker. The second one is this one. Let's keep this one short and sweet. If your life story was a novel, yeah, what would the title be? Have you thought about that? What's the title of your life story?
Yes. The first book I read as a teenager that I enjoyed was Woman of Substance. So the title of my book would be No Ordinary Woman.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant. We're going to get into why you chose that. Obviously, people will understand, I'm sure. Guys, the people listening to us right now, if you're listening right now, if you want to know why our wonderful guest today has chosen No Ordinary Woman, just keep listening as she uncovers her story, her journey to get into where she is today. The next one is, so what is one piece of advice, writing advice, that you wish you could give to your younger self now?
I would kind of tell myself that to keep writing, because the kind of writing people remember comes from emotional truth. So don't be shy with emotions. Don't try and hide it. Tap into that curiosity that you have, and don't be embarrassed by your vulnerability, Yeah, grow your passion, because your words carry weight that you're not going to see until you leave it for a year or two and then read it back.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant words there. I mean, for some of us who are not necessarily into writing, it's something that's always fascinated me. There's someone I met recently who is into she likes to write music. She likes to write music. And she's a great singer as well, but she likes to write music. And I'm like, how do you come up with some of the content? I'm sure we're gonna find out with how you come up with some of your content as we move along. But let's start with your creative journey and craft, right? You talked about how you started at the BBC and then went into the Women's Center where you started with volunteering and then eventually worked there for 18 years. So this might be the reason, the answer to my next question, but I'm still going to ask it anyway. So what sparked your transition from journalism to fiction writing?
I think as a journalist, you chase facts. That's what you've got to chase. You've got to chase facts. And I wanted to explore inner lives behind the headlines, you know. You read a story of what happened to a woman and you think, but what's the backstory? She may have done this, but what's her backstory or what's his backstory? Because, of course, I do write about men as well. It was about the way I understood and explored and expressed human feelings and human emotions. So I think that's the way I saw it, really, to dig deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, you said something there that journalism is about chasing facts. I'm not quite sure. With today's journalism, I'm not quite sure that's the case. I don't know if you have a rebuttal to that.
Gosh, that's changed now.
Yeah.
That's changed. That was back in the 90s. And my professor, he was an awesome professor, actually. He was so unconventional. He actually upset a lot of students. He caused a lot of students to leave the course because of his truth about life, about politics, about the royal family. He was so raw, but that's what, pulled me in. I loved his stories. Yeah.
I mean, today is about headline hunting, isn't it? And clickbaiting.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, those headlines, what we have going right now is really not journalism as I know journalism. It is all about grabbing the headlines. It's biased. It's not about truth. It's about a set of people's outlook and their kind of agenda. That's why the headlines you see, and I have a big problem with this, when you see a domestic abuse story, the way they, depending on the color of the man, the empathy that comes with the headlines, nice businessman, even that one that shot with the bow and arrow, killed 3 women, the mother, the sister, and his ex. And, how did they explain that? The headline to that was making him like, he was a sad, he was lonely, he was, OMG. It was disgusting. So those headlines that they used, it's their own agenda. Yeah. It's misogynistic. It packs no truth. It packs no real facts. It is all about the policy of the newspaper, the agenda of the newspaper, and we know what their agendas are. I don't have to spell it out. We know exactly what the agenda is. It's racist, it's misogynistic, it's misogynoir, a lot of it. And they're blatant with it now. Yeah. They're blatant. My time coming up, you could never write those things and get away with it. Yeah. But now you can.
Yeah. Because it's about the bottom line, isn't it? It's about, okay, how many people click? How many people? And I think it's shouldn't be that way, but this is the world that we live in. But anyway, let's not dwell on negatives. Let's talk about Swimming with Fishes and Love Again. So can you walk us through the inspiration behind those two novels or books?
Oh my goodness. If you see the original version of Swimming with Fishes, it had a different title. It was like My Gift to You Both. That was the title of Swimming with Fishes. It was totally different. But the inspiration behind that really came with one character, and that was a girl I knew at school. She had sickle cell anemia, and she was often off of school, in hospital, blood transfusion, often in pain. When she came to school, she didn't come out in the playground to play with us because, especially in the winter time, it was just too cold for her. And when we were 14, 15 and started, as girls talking about the husbands we were going to have, the houses we were going to live in, the children, because you really did think in those, at 14 and 15 that you could choose to have a boy first, then I'll have a girl, then I'll have another boy. So we spoke a lot about children. And this girl, let me call her a different name, say Charlotte. All Charlotte ever spoke about, that was her topic, was having children. And she spoke about having children because even at that age, 13, 14, 15, when we started learning, about life and the opposite sex and, get married, live happily ever after. She just wanted to have children because she'd been told she couldn't have children. Not that she couldn't, but she shouldn't, because it would kill her. And it was very much, I would say, a cultural understanding of sickle cell. For a start, her mother used to say she had bad blood. She had bad blood. She can't have children. She had bad blood. So she grew up thinking in her head, she's got bad blood. Because, they didn't understand it either in those days. It was But all she was told, you can't have a child. And all she ever wanted was to have a child. So Swimming with Fishes, I started with that premise. A young woman living in Jamaica who was an artist, who had sickle cell anemia and was told she couldn't have a child. But that's all she wanted. There was and because it was in Jamaica, in the very rural parts of Jamaica, I wrote that book in Jamaica. I took 6 weeks to stay in Jamaica, to sit on the beach, to visit rural villages, to observe characters, observe different cultures, mix it with a little fantasy and get it onto the page where there was a herbalist woman who had the knack of telling futures. And she saw the girl on the beach and she just said to her, I dreamt you last night. Let me see your palm. And, she knows Mother Cynthia, she's called. The girl's name is Catherine. They called her Cat. So Cat shows her palm to Mother Cynthia and Mother Cynthia said, look, there it is. I knew I saw it. You're swimming with fishes. And Cat was like, well, what does that mean? And Mother Cynthia said, oh, come on, you know what that means. It means you're going to have a child. And you're going to have a child with a man from across the sea. But careful, he has secrets. That was, I'm not going to give you all any spoilers, but, that was his kind of like the kind of back story to it, where while she's painting on the beach, she meets this man that was in the country as an architect. So he just finished a project of building hotel, and he met her on the beach, and he'd been watching her for a while. She didn't know, but he'd been watching her from afar, how she just sat like a statue and painted and drew on her pad. And so she kind of caught his attention, and she of course thought this was the man. This is the man to give me the child. But they have secrets. They both have secrets. Her secret, we all know, she has sickle cell anemia, which she does not. She doesn't want to tell him.
Really? Okay.
She doesn't want to tell him because in that village, she had no boyfriends because no mother wanted her for a daughter-in-law because she wouldn't be able to give her son children because she's not allowed to have children. So she grew up, with those kind of weights around her. She built an armor around herself not to be hurt by people's comments about her not being able to ever have a child. And she didn't meet this man till she was 28, and most of her friends had been married and had children. But there she was, without any children, without any love, until she met a wonderful man from abroad. But he had a secret.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, just to explain about the swimming with fishes, in the Caribbean, if your mother, and this is in real life now, if your mother dreams you eating fish, or she dreams fish, or you're swimming with fish, it means somebody in the family is pregnant. And my mother has never got it wrong. This is a true story. With her 3 daughters, every time mommy would phone you and say, "I dreamed fish last night. Which one are pregnant?" She always asked her daughters. And one of us always was. We always were.
Wow.
There's something in that. And that's why I use it as a title.
Wow.
You know?
Nice.
So
that's an interesting story. I mean, obviously, you say you don't want to spoil it. So people need to go read that book to find out what the secret of the man from the other side of the river is, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So, guys, this is an assignment for you now. So, where can people get this book, Swimming with Fishes? Where is it available?
My publishers, Jacaranda Books, Arts and Music. You Google Jacaranda Books, Arts, Music. You could order my book from them. There's a website they've got, and all the books are on that website. All their books, but Swimming with Fishes and Love Again is on that.
Yeah, I think just a quick Google search I've done now shows that it's available on Amazon as well. So
Yeah.
that is.
But I get more of a I get more royalty from my publishers.
From the okay. Anyway, so obviously this is part of the resources you show. So guys, check out the link in the description there. The link to Jacaranda Books is right there. Order that book and have a look at it, and then you can find out what the secret is from that young man from the other side of the river. Very interesting. I mean, just from the little snippet that you've given us there, I can tell that book is something to have a look at. And again,
because he's born in Jamaica, but Ben is from London. He was just in Jamaica finishing a job.
Right.
When she met him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe when we're done, you can actually tell me the secret of this other man. But it's fine. Let's not give everything away to the members of the public yet. And then also, of course, the other book is also published by the same publishers, isn't it?
Yes.
Guys,
Love Again.
Love Again. Have a look, guys. We're not going to tell you everything right now. Let's leave some things to you to find out.
But one thing about Love Again was it was one of 20 books published in 2020 by 20 Black authors. So it made history. Jacaranda published 20 Black authors in 2020, and Love Again was one of those books.
Lovely. Interesting. Right. Okay. Let's now talk about, you have these regular workshops that you have. You were even telling me just before we got on about an event you held in Jamaica where you took some writers. So you have, how do your workshops, like the Just Write and Still I Write, how does it help new voices to emerge?
Yeah, well, Just Right. Again, I just want to go back a little bit and tell you about when I worked at the refuge, that I found that women, you had to have meetings with them and write case studies for them to take along to the council for them to be rehoused. And their case study has to tell from the first abuse to what brought them to the refuge. But I found the women didn't really tell you the whole thing. But what I found was that I said to my manager, can we give them journals in their welcome pack? Because by then I knew that you're going to write more than you're going to speak. And that's what happened. So why I left the refuge was because, I wanted to do my own work with women who'd gone through domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Because it didn't always begin with the man that they were with. It began from childhood, some of these abuse they went through. I'm not going into it too much, but childhood sexual abuse, domestic abuse, they went hand in hand. So the workshops that I created, Just Right, it was to create like a safe space. It was to create, spaces where women felt saved for their voices to be let out, because some of them have been long silenced. They're unsure whether to speak because of the trauma. Because the body, that book that says body keeps a score, it's so true. They keep these things inside. And I wanted the writing to strip away their fears of imperfection, because I had women who had thick African accents that they were teased about by the partner. And some of the partners, they were Africa, but because they grew in England, they had the accent. And the woman had her, raw African accent that she came into the country with, because a lot of them they had no recourse to public funds. They just met these men and had children. And so I needed them to strip away all the fears of imperfection and not to get it right. I used to tell them, just vomit. Don't think about grammar, spellings, anything like that. Just vomit it onto the page. Vomit everything, like you just go, blah, just get it all out. And that was it, really. It's not about getting it right. It was just about getting it out. And that went for Just Right and Still I Write, both of them. That's the ethos behind it.
Honestly, brilliant idea there from you, like giving them journals, giving them papers and pens, to put it down, because you're right. I think people are gonna, in that situation, sometimes you just want to write it, and sometimes when you start writing, you're actually remembering and you're writing, but when you're talking to somebody, you might feel a bit shy, you might feel maybe not. Yeah, so I get that's a brilliant idea there. I think you do a bit of empowerment and advocacy as well as part of your job, your work, what you do. So, what role does storytelling play in healing from trauma?
Wow, it's huge. It's huge. Like you said, once you start writing, the pen takes you places. It takes you places, and it triggers your emotions. It opens up doors that you've had closed, doors that you don't even remember were there that was closed. This is why we use it as a tool to release trauma. Now, with empowerment, I just get them writing, and then I don't work alone. So I will work with other facilitators as well. So I'll bring in, somebody else who will, empower them through yoga.
Yeah.
I empower them. We go to the spa. We go to a spa, women only spa. And like how us black women like going to hairdressers, and the hairdressers, they kind of get the best stories out of you. There's so much gossiping that goes on there.
Yeah.
In a spa as well. In a spa, being in a steam room, in the sauna, women release. So they don't just get, a good scrub from head to toe. They also get massaged, and they also open up and let so much things out. And some end up crying because they've forgotten it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once, you're there and you feel safe. It's so important to feel safe, because once you feel safe, the confidence builds. You find that confidence to just talk it, and, and then there's so many women there that can relate and will say, oh my God, Rashida, that happened to me. I remember that. Or, oh my God, Sarah, you understand? It comes out.
I mean, honestly, these stories are interesting, and the way you put these stories, it's just brilliant. And I'm sure, guys, I'm sure you're enjoying this episode. So if you have any questions, just pop it down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure that I transfer those stories straight to you, Rashida. Obviously, her socials are also on there. If you want to get in touch with her as well, connect with her on LinkedIn and every other platform. They are all down there in the description below. Right. I know you have a lot of stories. There are lots of participants that you've come across with different issues, different stories, different problems that you've helped them with. But can you share a powerful moment where one of the participants, in your foundation program has turned her pain into purpose? Is there any story like that?
She's now a trustee of the WILDE Foundation. I met her in the refuge. I was her key worker, and after she left the refuge and went to start her life again, I just always remembered her story. And she's from Pakistan. She'd been, raped at 5 years old by two cousins who lived in the property as well. Her father just beat them up and put them on a plane and sent them back home. But this 5-year-old was blamed for this. And she always remembers that she was treated completely different, but she didn't understand why. She didn't understand why really until she was older and started hearing people talking about her. That's how she knew what had happened to her. And then, of course, she was forced to marry one of her abuser's relatives, and that was even worse for her. And during that time, she had 2 children, and she always said she had never consented to anything. So the 2 children that came, she'd never consented to anything. And when she left the refuge, she stayed in my head, and I was always concerned about her. And maybe about 18 months later, I actually met her, but she lived in Southall, and I bumped into her in Shepherd's Bush Market. Hi, what are you doing now? And she wasn't up to much, so I told her about the WILDE Foundation. Why don't you come along? We've got women there that would love to speak to you. She came along, and that's how she found her confidence. Her confidence grew in talking to these women, and so she started writing her own TED Talk. She decided to write about abuse in Pakistani family because, like she said, child abuse isn't really recognized because in Pakistan they're allowed to marry children, so they don't look at it as, yes. And the way she opened up and told that story, the whole WILDE Foundation committee decided that let's invite her to be a trustee. She just grew confidence. She just grew influence. She started influencing women from her own community to say, this isn't right. We shouldn't accept this. That ended as a good story. I mean, it's still kind of sad because she still has battles, as you can imagine. And being half of her family, more than half of her family won't speak to her. There's some in there that speaks to her, but she, eventually, like I said, she left the abusive husband, but he had great influence over her daughter, so her daughter treats her very badly. But she's, she grows above it. She grows above it, and she stands high on her pinnacle and speaks the truth. She doesn't, she's not embarrassed by it now. She's not, you're shaming us, you're a dishonor to us. She doesn't care. She's grown above that now because she's found a freedom and a release in writing her TED Talk. We can't wait for her to start performing it, but I think it'll take her a while because there's still I didn't go into the terrible things, but all of that she wants to, lay on paper.
Yeah, that is, that's...
And it was about getting her to write her own future, So that's why she said, I'm not a survivor. I want to be, she said, I'm a thriver. I'm not a survivor. I'm going to thrive. And I want to influence, women from my community, like how I see you influence women from, the Caribbean community, Rashida. I want to do that with my women. And we thought, great. That's how the WILDE Foundation can expand and offer a platform also to Asian women.
So, obviously, the WILDE Foundation, how do you, through the foundation, help women shift from survivors into influencers? And that story there you've just told us, I think is a brilliant example of that. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on how you do that.
Well, what I want to say is that WILDE, we didn't talk about WILDE, WILDE, because some men, when I say I work for the WILDE Foundation, they're like, ooh, police. WILDE is an acronym for Women in Literature, Development, Empowerment. That's the acronym for WILDE. And yeah, we're there so that women can shape, their communities, so they can be, own their own power. And they do it by stepping up to that page. That's where it starts. That's where it begins for a lot of them. They step up to that page. They start journaling. They start pouring everything out. Then they get the courage to start sharing it with women in the group in a safe space. And then soon after that, they want to go out on the bigger stage of the world and start talking about it and start telling, no, this is not good enough for us. And, if I can just empower one woman to do that, we've done a good day's work. That's how we see it.
Yeah, that's something. That's brilliant. Yeah, of course. One new person whose life has been turned around. I think it's brilliant. And well done. Well done to you and to the foundation. And I hope that you keep going from strength to strength. And hopefully, I don't know if you guys accept donations or whatever, but whatever it is, I'm sure we're going to be able to plug you guys in to more women.
Well, don't forget also we run an annual festival.
Yeah,
and it's in Shepherd's Bush, Bush Theatre.
Yeah, I think yes.
Oxford Road, near the market.
Yeah.
We're going to be there July the 19th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We've got Charlene, Charlene White, the newsreader.
No.
ITN newsreader.
No, I don't listen to ITN often.
Okay, yeah, but Charlene, she's written a book. And so, as an author, she's going to be one of our guest authors. But we've got some phenomenal authors. Ashley, do you know Ashley Hickson Lovins? A male author. He's awesome. So you need to, Chucks, you need to come down on the 19th of July. I'm inviting you to come down to the festival and meet a lot of people. There's not just going to be women. There's going to be many people, many authors. And you'll find many business people as well who you could invite onto the Curious Tycoon Podcast.
Brilliant. No, 5th of July. Awesome. I'm going to put that in my calendar. If there's a place to sign up, maybe Eventbrite or whatever, you can send that to me, obviously, and then I can definitely sign up for that.
Yes.
I should be able to attend that. That's brilliant. Wonderful work again. We're coming to our home stretch now. We'll come back to writing and all these things. We're going to talk about publishing, industry and insights around that. So what, as a person of color, as a proud Jamaican Black woman, what challenges have you faced in publishing, if any, and how did you overcome them?
Wow, a lot. And they're still there, Chucks. They're still there. When I first started sending my books off to mainstream publishers, they were just all sent back. We don't know where to place you. We wouldn't know where to place you. This was with Swimming with Fishes as well. And Swimming with Fishes, it's a love story, for crying out loud. It's a tender love story between, there's a triangle. Okay, that's the most I'll give you. There's a triangle. But it's a tender love story. All women across culture who've read my book, they relate.
Yeah.
It's about women and love. They relate. But when I sent it off to these publishers, they didn't know where to place me. And the only reason they didn't want to know where to place me is because my characters were black. Kat was black, Ben was black, Claire was black. The only white person in there was Columbus, who lived in Jamaica and who had a crush on Kat. And he was a French guy. Well, half French and half Scottish. Hence his father called him Columbus. But the rest of my characters were black. And that's why they couldn't place me, because it was about black people, black love. And I remember one publisher, I could always mention their name, HarperCollins. The editor sent back and she said to me, yeah, we don't know where to place you, but you have a voice. I didn't understand what that meant at the time. You had a voice. I didn't understand. Of course, now I know what it means, and I know it was the greatest compliment she gave me. But yeah, it took me a while to discover what she meant with you had a voice. But even though they were turning me down, I kept writing because writing was it was just by then I had started having my children, and, you know, I'd still be writing. I'd be breastfeeding and writing in my notebook. You couldn't stop me. I wanted to write, I wanted to write, I wanted to write. And I finally went to a book launch where I met my present publisher, Jacaranda. And I said to her, you know, I've got this book. I've had it for years because I've had Swimming with Fishes for many years. She said, oh, send it to us. Let's have a look. And I did. And then, you know, publishers, they take forever to get back to you. So it was about maybe 9-10 weeks later, I get an email saying, we'd like to meet with you. But of course you don't know whether you're going to be accepted. Yeah. So you go along with great trepidation. And she said, we'd like to publish this book. So that was wonderful. But up until then, so many rejections. You know, I wouldn't say 400 like one of my author colleagues who had 400 rejection letters that she kept. But I would say 30 plus I kept, maybe more, but I threw away. Now I've thrown them all away. Now I've thrown them all away. I don't want their energy around me because the problems are still there. They still do not believe that we have an audience of readers. Who's going to read your books? There's not enough black people that read. The insults that come. And of course, they're right in some sense. You know, they have this thing where they said, if you want to keep a secret from black people, put it in a book. Yeah. I'm not going to lie that sometimes I feel that way because sometimes I feel we're not embracing literature enough. We put on a writers' festival. We'd never be able to fill a hall like if we put on a Vibes Cartel or a Beyonce. You understand? We'd never get that kind of attention, but we should. We should. Literature, you know, that is our legacy. That's what tells 200 years from now. That's how people are going to know us, through our writing.
Yeah, and it's hurting us, I would say, because, you know, if you don't do that, other people will tell your story for you. And when other people tell your story for you, they're going to put their bias. They're going to make it, it's going to be terrible. And that's why you have, you know, your friends that you mentioned earlier, BBC, for instance, going into in many corners of the world. You're trying to get BBC Igbo, BBC Hausa, BBC this, that, right? They're obviously running it, and they will tell their stories the way they want it. BBC Africa, you know, they'll tell those stories the way they want it to be told, which is not the best. So I actually do agree.
Never the best. Never the best. Until the lion tells his story, the hunter will always be the hero.
Yeah, that is.
We've got to tell our own stories.
You know, let's round up because we're pressed for time a little bit now. So do you think, I think you've answered this a bit actually, do you think the industry is doing enough now to amplify marginalized voices? Do you think there's enough being done?
No. There's some publishers who are trying, but they're never going to do enough because of their belief. That's what I was saying. Because they believe in the fact that we don't have a big enough audience in our community to buy our books. I remember at the end of the day, publishing is seen as a rich white man's business. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he wants to make money. You know, publishing is ruled by middle-class white men backed by middle-class white women.
Yeah.
You go to the London Book Fair, it's hard to spot anyone that looks like you. When we go and we see even Asian people, they spot us, they run towards us. We run towards each other because you hardly see us at these spaces.
Yeah.
And so are they changing. They started changing after George Floyd. They made some changes. That's how the Black Writers Guild came about, which I'm a member of now. They were giving, I think the 5 publishing mainstream big ones came together and gave money to start Black publishing businesses. They picked out Black books to called Sunday Time bestsellers. I mean, I beg to differ with some of them that they've picked, but they were desperate. They needed to show that, we're not like them in America, but they are, because now it's gone a big dip again. We're still agents. You can't get an agent. Your agents won't take you on because they know they can't sell your work. And even the Black agents, they don't really want to take you on either, because they know what, the publishing industry is like.
Yeah.
So I do applaud those who have taken steps and have belief in us, but those who have belief in us, we still have to be writing the way they want us to write. You understand? We still can't go down our own freedom with literature. We still have to make sure we stay in that, the gatekeepers, they're there. We still got to make sure we please the gatekeepers within our writing.
Yeah.
So that's why it's great to have publishers like my publishers, Jacaranda, like those publishers out there who, are really happy about giving us a platform.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hopefully. So, do you have any ideas as to how this can change then?
Well, it will change
when there are more Black people that are willing to consume the content, right? I think that's pretty straightforward, actually. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, America's got a bit of the idea because they set up their own big platforms, their own big foundations. Like Tyler Perry, he's got his film studios, and we need those. Idris is one I'm watching. I would love Idris to read my book Swimming with Fishes, because I know he could turn that into a fantastic movie, but you need people like that. And our Black millionaires in this country, number one, they don't want you to know who they are. And number two, they're not really willing to back literature in that way. They just aren't.
Yeah.
That's why even I've done my own platform with the Writing Festival, because in any small way I can, I've got to platform, global majority writers. I want to platform them. But now I've learned I've got to collaborate with other communities to make it a success, because your own community does not give you enough support for you to grow to that level.
Yeah, right. Anyway, I mean, hopefully. So, guys, this is also a clarion call to all my peeps out there. You guys, let's get reading. Let's try and turn around that narrative that when you want to hide information, put it in a book. Let's try to turn that narrative around, because it's gonna help us a lot. But yeah, obviously, Rashida, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna buy the book. I'm gonna buy it for myself and have a look at it. I've had a couple guests come on here, and I like to support my my guests. Somewhere I would love them to support me as well. So it's I'm gonna buy it, and I'm gonna try to make sure that I put it on all my socials so that people are aware of it. And of course, guys, the link is in the description below. Check the website of the publisher. The publisher is jacarandabooks.co.uk. Check it out. The books is only $7.99. The Swimming with Fishes is only $7.99 on jacarandabooks.co.uk. Right. This is going to be the last question before we give you an opportunity for anything you want to plug in, any activities, events, or shows, or a new book. You can plug it in after answering the question. And the question is, how do you balance creative writing with your mission-driven activism? How do you balance that?
Well, I don't see them as separate, because this is why I use the tool of writing, of creative writing, of journaling. This is why I use it as a tool to deal with the activism that I'm into, which is to, protect women and girls. It's my tool. It's a creative tool to empower. I really don't see it as separate entity. When I have to write my love stories, I love it. I can get lost in that world. When I'm doing work with women who have broken, who are shattered, again, I call on creativity and utilize my voice, utilize my words, my language to make them feel safe, to empower them to find their own voices and let them understand that what you can't speak out, what maybe you won't be able to tell me right now, here's a book, here's a journal. Write a letter to yourself. Write a letter to your 12-year-old self. Write a letter to your future self. Just tell yourself from past to future what you want for them.
Do you have any other events or shows? You have like a regular event you do? This is your time to tell us. Yeah.
Yes. We have a regular event the second Sunday in every month. Now, this is women only. It's called Human Stories, and that's where we meet up. And it's very much led by the women themselves. So we do write, we banter, we eat, we joke, we listen to music, we play games. And we also invite facilitators in to come and talk with the women and talk to the women. But it's open to women. We welcome them, and we're based in Shepherd's Bush. So, if you want to jump on a tube, jump on a bus, we're there. It's on every second Sunday in every month from 12:03. And we usually have kind of snacks, and we also like to have a bit of a Sunday dinner there. Some people sometimes donate to us, and so we can provide Sunday dinners. But yeah, Human Stories is about, women finding safe space together, telling stories, writing stories, sharing stories. That second Sunday in every month. And for now, we've also got an online. So if you feel that, if you're listening to this and you're in Croydon and feel that, that's a bit far coming to Shepherd's Bush, we've got an online, writing, and that's Saturday mornings from 10:30 till 12:30. And again, there is so much laughter and bantering and storytelling and writing that takes place on it. So again, I can let you have the kind of the email for people who are interested to get in touch with us, and we will send a registration form. And it's affordable. Our online classes are like £5 per week.
Right. I mean, obviously, you can share all those resources with me, and I'll put them in the description so that people can easily sign up. And I will also try and include them whenever this video comes out on most of the socials. Honestly, it has been an interesting, enlightening, eye-opening conversation. Guys, if today's conversation moved you, please don't forget to visit Rashida Ashanti Malcolm author to explore Rashida's novels, workshops, and foundation. The link is in the description below. You might just find the permission you've been waiting for to tell your story. I'm sure you have an interesting story to tell. This might just be the opportunity for you to tell that brilliant story. This is the Curious Tycoon Podcast. Do not forget, guys, stay smart, stay generous, and stay curious. Hit subscribe button, put your comments in the comment section below. Please like the video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, share this video to somebody that might find it valuable. Guys, ensure you never miss a video from the Curious Tycoon Podcast. Thank you so much for watching the video today. Until next time, guys, take care, goodbye, and God bless.